From casual to hardcore, newbies to veterans. This is the Warcraft Chat Channel Podcast, hosted by Badger and Altier.
Hello, my name is Kole, aka Badger.
My name's Ty, aka Altier.
My name's Josanna, aka Nozaromi.
That's right. Josanna will be joining us in for the rest of our series here at the Warcraft Chat channel. So Ty, Josanna, it's been a very, very busy week in WoW this week.
It's been a hectic week.
It's been a hectic. Of course, I'm talking about the release of the pre-patch for Dragonflight. So how do you guys think the pre-patch is going?
It's insane.
Yeah?
Just like any other pre-patch, we have systems left over from the previous expansion, and now we have new systems from the new expansion, and they're all like mixing in with each other, and it is the greatest thing that happens every single pre-patch.
Yeah, I've noticed it's making some great synergies with classes, such as being able to use more than one covenant, legendaries boosting really high damage abilities that are the main focus of some classes' talent systems.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Still being able to, a lot of classes got their legendaries built into their talents, along with either their 1-piece or their 4-piece from the last tier, if they were lucky.
Yeah.
And then
not so lucky.
like Demon Hunter is a great example of that. Their best legendary before the pre-patch was Collective Anguish, which summons a friendly Demon Hunter next to you and does Fellow Devastation.
Yeah, that's really
now
nice.
That's a talent, so you can go to the next best legendary, which was considerably its equal almost, and now you can just reset your I-beam constantly.
I know.
And it just feels really nice.
I know, it's so nice. So what about you, Josanna? How do you think the pre-patch is going?
I'm liking it so far. Like, I already really enjoyed Demonology Warlock, but with the talents and the new portal that you can get in the tree, it's a really fun class. Just having all those demons pop out of the portal and the small chance of getting like special characters from like past expansions coming out of the portal's pretty neat.
Yeah, I agree. I think the pre-patch is going pretty smooth. I mean, the first day was kind of rough on the servers, but they were able to get it up and running by that night, right?
Yeah, I mean, pre-patch is always kind of iffy when that first day.
Which this is only the first phase of the pre-patch, right? Or they're planning to release a second phase. What is that? November 15th?
Yes, it's the 15th. And that involves the pre-patch event, which there's a smaller quest line with the new dungeon, which it's not a new dungeon, but it's an old dungeon with a new story.
And I believe the new class, the Invoker class, is coming out on the 15th.
Yeah, I don't like talking about them.
You don't like talking about them?
No, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of the class.
Well, I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of the healing spec. Granted, I'm not maining it at all in Dragonflight, but I do think the healing spec is a lot of fun.
The idea of the class, I think, is really cool. With the holding down abilities to charge it to add additional effects and greater power to them, like the hold down system. I thought that was really cool, and it's something that they definitely need to look at and expand to other classes.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if you don't like the play style of the class, which it was all right for like the DPS side, but the customization was on point though. That was really fun, just making like a really cool dragon humanoid and then the dragon form.
Oh yeah, we've been on the beta for a while and making like the humanoid versions of them, which I believe they're called the visage of the dragons, look really, really, really cool, and you can do a lot of customization. But it feels weird because when you go to make one, you're like, oh look, I've got like 30 different options, and then you go to undead and it's like you have 2.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully they implement that type of customization on all the other races, down the road, or even just the complexity of the class itself into other classes.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
I want beards on trolls. Just saying. If
Another thing
anybody
I
Blizzard's
noticed.
listening, please add beards to trolls. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Uh, another cool thing I noticed is that when you go to pick the Dracthyr class, you have to actually accept that
Oh.
it is a advanced class.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You do.
So it's not new player, I guess, friendly if you're really
Yeah,
new
it
to the
it
game.
it, it literally says if you're new, try something else.
Now, do you think that's gonna uh hinder the class? How many people want to play it?
Absolutely not.
You don't think
It
so?
looks too cool for it
Yeah,
to hinder
no.
people to be like, I'm gonna try it anyway. It looks badass.
But I this is a I feel like the way the class operates is really different from the other classes. Do you think that's going to affect class design for the original classes?
I hope it does.
Think so?
Yeah.
Do you want the hold down options or no? Or do you just want them to revamp how they?
I think the hold down option, like currently there's a breath that the Dracthyr have, and the longer you hold it down, the more damage it does, and it actually gains effects based on how long you hold it down. There's like different levels depending on how long you're holding it down.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some skills that could probably really benefit from that. Like the major one that comes to mind is Blade Storm.
Oh
Blade
yeah.
Storm, you hit it and then you spin around in a circle and then you're done. But what if you held down Blade Storm and you kind of charged your weapons before you started the spin, and how long you hold it down and how long you charge it gives it more damage and different effects.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't thought about it affecting other classes like that. I think that would be really cool and really.
Yeah, my own opinion. I'm not a big fan of hold down abilities, but if they implement it like how he said with like the class where it didn't like hinder the flow of it, then it wouldn't
Mhm.
be too bad.
Yeah, that's my big concern. I'm if it just like stops your DPS rotation, I feel like that would be a bad thing for hold down abilities to be applied to some classes.
I can see that, but
Mm-hmm.
like you go in and you're in a Mythic Plus, you charge into a giant group. Just take Warrior for example, because we were already talking about them. You go ahead and you cast Rend, and you spread it out, Rends on everybody, and then you go and you hold your weapon high up in the sky, and you just charge it for 3 seconds. Then you do this giant blade storm.
When you said hold your sword up in the sky, I instantly thought of like a paladin ability.
A paladin ability.
Yeah, like what if like a paladin like shot up his sword and the longer you hold it down, like angels or something comes crashing down.
That would be really
Yeah,
cool.
I feel like paladin would probably benefit from something like that just because of the nature of the class design.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Cause their rotation, at least on Ret, isn't super fast anyway, right? I haven't
No.
really played a Ret Paladin.
No, outside of Crusade, it's pretty slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably one of the slower melee DPSs, if I had to say.
One of
But it
them.
looks pretty.
It does. Anyway, so yeah, we all agree that pre-patch is going pretty good. We're excited for the next phase. There are some elements that we weren't able to talk about in the first episode, and I wanted to talk about them now. The main one is the UI changes for Dragonflight.
This is a really sticky subject for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, from what I've seen, a lot of people do not like the new UI. There are some people that do, but I feel like the majority don't. I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I'm still using LVUI, and I will forever always use LVUI. Not a plug, by the way. Um, but
Sponsor us. Sponsor us.
LVUI, I've used LVUI for since it first came out as Taki UI when I was tanking. It just Blizzard really they did a good job revamping the UI, But I really think what they should have done was they should have hired the people of these add-ons that they're trying to implement in the game
Yeah,
to do
I
it.
mean,
To imagine if they had given the authors of LVUI money to come work on the UI on the base UI for World of Warcraft.
yeah.
The tricky part with that though is I feel the reason they might say no, even if the money is good, is if you take your own baby that you made and big corporation hires you to work for them, there's a chance you have to make what they want you to make, not what you originally were making. So, there's a chance that, Blizzard Activision could ask them to change aspects of that they don't want to do.
See, I think
Was
along the lines of that, I feel like they would be too hindered by the way Blizzard wants it to look. They want it to still feel like WoW. They want ELVUI is such a huge change compared to the base UI.
it is a huge change and it does have a lot of options. Um, but granted, Blizzard they tried it, and I'm not saying they failed at it, but they probably could have done a better job.
Which,
I spent like an hour or two
mhm.
trying to make my UI look as much as my LVUI profile as possible, and there's just a lot of aspects that are missing that I like in my UI when I'm doing, PvP, mythics, or raids.
Right. Which,
Yeah.
which you have to think, we all three of us have the perspective of using add-ons and are pretty comfortable with those add-ons. What do you think the UI will do for new players?
I think new players probably aren't too familiar with add-ons, or they may maybe prefer not using as many add-ons. So I feel like that interface, the default one that WoW provides now, might be good for them because LVI can be kind of overwhelming if you're not experienced with it. I prefer LVI. I haven't really messed around with the WoW interface that they implemented, but I feel like new players might prefer it because it's more simple.
Yes, I agree with that statement. I think new players will be able to almost kind of like help help their performance or help how they can see their abilities better for them if they're able to edit their UI in a easier way.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed in the UIs are like say the talent imports, which kind of come from other add-ons such as ELVUI. Sorry, I probably say that wrong. That and weak auras have like implemented in their add-ons. Do you think that was the inspiration for talent imports?
I think it was. I don't know if it was an inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a good idea by Blizzard, and they knew that we needed it. The new talent system, which I love the new talent system. I'm not going to go on it right now,
Yeah.
but I love the new talent system. Um, there is a drawback, which a lot of people are complaining about, but a lot of people don't realize that you don't need you don't need intimidation on a single boss fight that has no ads.
Yeah.
You're never going to hit intimidation for hunters. You're just not. You're never going to hit multi-shot on a single target boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
So why put points into it? A lot of people are complaining that I don't have this and I don't have that. Um, but the whole reason why they did that whole import thing and the whole reason why they did the 10 profiles was that so you can make those profiles so that when you need it, you can simply just switch to that AoE oriented build or that single target build or even hybrid builds.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just so used to the convenience of having kind of like a spread of everything already on their bars. They don't realize that with WoW taking that out to where you have to spec into those, it gives you more room to kind of expand and have a little more variety to your class. So it's not just like cookie cutter.
Right. I mean, I'm I like it. I like the import system for the talents, but I'm also worried about the issue where if people import, they aren't going to know why they're importing certain abilities.
That's that's been an issue forever. I
Of
mean,
course, yeah.
with these new talent builds and everything else like that, there's a lot of people saying like, "Oh, there's way more customization." There is, but there isn't.
It's all math. It's all going to
It
be down to math.
People are going to take what the best option is.
Yes.
um, Bob, I don't know who Bob is. Bob is gonna go to WowHead and he's gonna be like, "Oh, I play, an outlaw rogue. Okay, there's three profiles here for an outlaw rogue. There's a cleave, there's a multi-cleave, and there's a single target. I'm going into raid, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the single target, copy paste the code, go into World of Warcraft, press N, hit import. I'm gonna name it single target. Bam! I just got all my abilities. Now I just need to place them on my bar. But you're right. There's a lot of people out there that aren't going to take the time to read every single node
Hmm.
that has been selected for them. And this was even with the small selection of the previous talents, that was still an issue. And that was only like what, 8 rows
Yeah, something
of
like that.
eight choices. Now you have, you know,
What is it, 30?
30,
31?
40 choices.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
30 for each talent tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that's really important to know because certain talents, could, help with procs. You got to pay attention to those procs. You have those windows or those synergies and stuff.
Right.
Right.
A lot of the
Um,
talents are this ability does this ability if you do this ability. It's like,
there's a lot of synergy.
yeah.
And what I really like is that, like, let's say for example in our guild right now, um, the main tank, his name is Mung. Shout out.
Hmm.
He is a brewmaster monk. So if I'm playing a Windwalker monk, we can talk about our class talent points because there are different nodes that if he goes and I go, then it's pointless. Like for example, there's this talent called Generous Pour, and it's you and your allies within 10 yards have 2% increase avoidance per rank, and you can do 2 ranks, so that's 4% increase avoidance. If he goes that, I have no need to do that
Hmm.
because he's already got it covered.
Right. Which I like that aspect. If you're
Yeah,
playing
it
with
kind
a,
of.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I say it
Yes.
kind of allows people to kind of feel useful, like they can provide something.
Right.
And it kind of builds teamwork too. Like you're like, oh, he's doing this. I could do something else to help the group in this way. Compared, I think that's such a good element.
Yeah, I really enjoy the customization of the builds, and there are a lot of classes out there that have multiple builds that are actually pretty close to each other
Hmm.
in damage wise.
Yeah, I think
So if you're
that's
not the 1% players, you can be like, "Oh, I'm gonna sacrifice 1% DPS to go ahead and play the build I actually enjoy."
right. Well, I think that should cover all of the UI changes. I think, unless there's something I'm missing. But
I
I
don't think so. We
you don't
kind
think so?
of dwelled into the talents there,
Yeah,
but
yeah, we did. We just love the talent system. There was a topic we were going to talk about last time, and we didn't have enough time to talk about it, and that's the professions. I'm kind of going to let you guys talk about the professions a little bit more because I'm not a huge professions guy, so I
you are
wanted
not a fan of the
I'm
professions.
I'm not. I might now since the changes, but I wanted to really get your opinions on the professions because you guys done the old systems.
So I'll give you a brief history on how the expansions have come up with professions.
Mm-hmm.
So professions used to be like, so example, if I was a miner and that's ore. Um,
Yeah. Go ahead.
if I was a miner, as I'm leveling up, you would actually get this passive called hardening, I believe it was, and it would increase my stamina as my mining skill went up.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was a tank, it was more beneficial to do mining, so you would get that more stamina. Herbalism gave you more haste. Each profession gave you something that was nice. Like blacksmiths could make sockets for their gloves and their bracers, but only for them. It would only work for them.
Right.
Um, so there were these perks that were really nice, and they took them out of the game, which I think hurt professions a lot. I wasn't a fan of them taking that stuff out because it made so much more of a choice for what you were playing and what role you were doing in the game. whether it was tanking, healing, DPS, or even straight just PvP. Because if you're straight PvP, you just automatically went engineering.
Yeah, I think with professions, what's really important is not only the ability to make gold with the professions, which hasn't been really a big thing. I think the last time I made a ton of gold with a profession was in Legion, and that was with enchanting, but the reusability, where you don't get to a certain point in the profession where it's pointless to even use it anymore because people aren't buying the stuff anymore. There's no use for those materials anymore, and it kind of falls off.
Right. And they really need to make professions relevant as the patches go on in each expansion. But they didn't do the best job. They did a better job this go around with the I think it was the vestige, where the BOE armor you could make with the vestige being an optional crafting would increase the item level of it. So there were no new patterns, real new items. It's just the item levels of the items that you could craft at the beginning were increased with this certain item each patch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really liking the directions that they're going with the new professions. And I don't know if you noticed this, but all the professions have new icons as well.
Oh, really? I've
Yeah,
noticed.
and the icons look really good. They're all new HD icons.
Oh, yeah.
Don't the professions like give you like an outfit too or something? I haven't really looked too much into the new professions yet, but
Yeah, you actually get a crafting outfit now. And whenever you
Oh,
do,
like an apron.
yeah. So like if you're cooking, you get like a chef's hat.
Oh, okay.
And like jewel crafters get, like in those movie scenes where someone's like, "Hey, how much is this gem?" And like the jeweler will put on that thing on their eye, and they're like, "Look at it," and stuff like that.
Oh, kind of like a monocle, but like zooms in. I don't know what.
Yeah, a zoom monocle is what we'll
Yeah.
call it. We're completely wrong, but we'll go with it. Um, that you put on one of those, and it increases the in-game fantasy for these professions. It also increases your stats
Stats in terms
for
of.
for these professions.
I
There's
see.
new stats in the game
Mm-hmm.
that either increase your crafting time, your specialty crafting, or the amount that you gather and the speed that you gather at.
do the professions have their own trees, like little baby trees?
Yes, they do. They have their own
Oh,
specializations,
bushes.
which
Sorry.
little bushes.
Sorry. Go
Shrubberies.
ahead.
So back in BC, okay, if you were a blacksmith, you had two options. You could either go weaponsmith or you could go blacksmith.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Armor
sorry,
weapons.
you're already a blacksmith, so you could go armor smith or weaponsmith.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And if you went weaponsmith, you would unlock weapons, obviously, and vice versa with the armor. You can do that now again. However, even if you go armor smith, you're still going to know all the weapon plans and know how to make them. However, the further you go down the weaponsmith, those weapons that you create are better and stronger
Mm-hmm.
than another blacksmith that went armor smith.
So like the whole profession, but you're a specialist and get bonuses on certain aspects.
Right. And there's now different levels of crafting. There's rates. There's rank 1 all the way up to 5, I believe. 5 being legendary status. It doesn't make the weapon legendary, but if you get your ranking up high enough, whether it be through the new knowledge system, crafting items from other professions, which I'll talk about that here in a second, you can get your weapon all the way up to rank 5, and it has increased item level, which means more damage, more stats, more pew pew.
How important do you think the crafting gear is going to be?
Oh, it's going to be very important, especially before the first raid, your pre-raid bis. It's going to be, I think it's going to be important, especially with the new system of the I forget what it's called. Anyway, there's a board that you can go to, and you can request. Like, let's say you're a demon hunter, okay?
Yeah.
You're not leatherwork. You chose to go engineering and mining.
Right.
But you see that, I really need leather shoulders because I haven't really gotten lucky in getting leather shoulders, or there's just no leather shoulders in the game for the stats that you want in the dungeons. So you can actually request a leather worker to craft you shoulders, and even though they're bind on pickup, which means when a crafter crafts it, it automatically binds to them. With this new feature, when it creates it, it automatically sends it to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. I like the direction they're going with the professions. I hope one day they can implement a system where, like, instead of just clicking a button and it crafts, like it's like some other games where you actually interact with it and have to do like almost like skill abilities, and based on how well you do, the item comes out really, really good with bonuses, or really crappy, or you fail it.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Right now, there's no system that you can fail it, but you can go really deep in getting really good items, and I think it's really cool that if I want to spend a day and just play as a blacksmith, I can go to this board and I can fill request. It's not just you just don't go up to someone like, hey, can you make me these shoulders? You have to actually go somewhere
And
and
lend your
put in a
services.
request.
Yeah.
And then, a blacksmith could be like, I'm going to go check out the board and see if there's any requests I can fill. That's how that works. And I think that's really unique and it's really cool.
Now,
But I do have. Oh, sorry.
I was going to ask how would the board work if, say, two blacksmiths are working on the same shoulders?
So I'm not entirely sure. I haven't checked it out. Blizzard just released it on the beta a few days ago. And I do need to get on there and test it out. But I'm assuming, and I could totally be assuming wrong because it's Blizzard, that it's just a quest.
It's kind of like a contract. Like you accept the
Yeah,
contract and no
like
one else
you
can
you
do
go
it.
yeah, you go, you accept it, it disappears from the board, you complete it. And I believe it's the requester's mats.
My only concern with it, though, I don't know if it will happen or not, but usually with something like that, you have people that abuse it, where they have more time to play. Maybe they can get to the board first, where they hog all the orders and no one else can grab any. Like if not a lot of people are ordering at that time.
I can see this being a problem if there's not
That's
like a
my concern.
system implication to where like you can only do like 5 a day or whatnot.
They might limit it down the road if it becomes a problem. I hope they do.
Right. It seems like the professions are going to be really important.
Oh yeah, I was really worried too because like the crafting professions all had specializations, and I'm like, well, what about the gathering ones? They do too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so for skinning, for a prime example, I was on the beta, testing out skinning routes and everything like that. And when you get skinning knowledge, you can add that knowledge to talent points within skinning. And just for example, a few of the nodes, when you skin, and this this makes so much sense. And Josanna can tell you, I was so happy when I read this. I was like, this should have always been a thing. When you select this talent, when you skin, you have a chance to loot meat from the animal that you're skinning. That just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you just leave the carcass there and just take the hide?
Exactly. So like not only are you getting skinning materials for your leatherworking, you're also getting meat.
But you can sell the meat if you.
You can either sell the meat or you can use it to level up your cooking,
True.
whatever you're doing. And it's just really cool.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder what other stuff you can get extra with other professions, since skinning and meat makes sense.
Maybe like
Oh, there's
mining more capable of getting more gems, maybe from mining nodes. I'm
yeah,
not
I can
sure.
see that. I haven't checked out all of things, but I did hear that herbalism has like the last node you can get, you can actually pick up herbs while mounted. Which, so long, druids.
Yeah.
See ya.
Druids are like, are we a joke to you now?
It's very interesting, and that's my hot 20-hour take
Yeah.
on professions.
Well, I do think we need to segue out of professions. I think they're going to be a great aspect to Dragonflight, but I want to kind of get into the class changes that are coming up. What do we think about the classes that are changing? Are any of them standing out that we might not be playing that we think are really cool in their class changes?
I'm not entirely sure. I know Josanna really likes her demons.
The demonology.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
she.
that's right. That's right. We haven't talked about Josanna's class and why she's maining it.
I'm weird because I don't like pet classes. I mean, I did Hunter for a while, but I just overall time I just realized I didn't like pet classes. You're like, well, why would you pick a class that has like 500 pets? Sometimes it seems like, well, a lot of these pets are temporary, so I can tolerate a temporary pet besides the one that just follows me around. But I do like the aspect of just zerging, mobs, people in PvP with a crap ton of pets. It's just super satisfying. I did try a little bit of the arcane mage because I wanted to see what changes are because I do like mage as well. And I do like the mass polymorph. That's pretty neat. And how it operates is I thought at first maybe you'd have to like target, like drop it somewhere like the circle, but I guess it's a circle around you. So you have to kind of be in there, cast it, and then it mass polymorphs all of them into like sheep.
Yeah, I remember patch day where everybody's testing out their new abilities, wearing Orbos, uh, beating up this turnip, and I'm just sitting there, and out of nowhere, Prince Malchazar comes from Karazhan out of her portal, and starts beating up this turnip.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier is that you get a rare chance like to get special demons coming out of the portal. And I remember too, I was like, is my portal talking to me? Because if he comes out, he talks. Like he says something either before he comes out or when he does. I wasn't really paying attention. So that's a really neat aspect to Demonology Warlock.
Really cool aspect.
Okay.
My
Go ahead.
my thing right now is and I'm actually maining Windwalker Monk now.
Oh, that's
Monk,
different from last episode.
it is different from last episode. It's completely different from last episode. And I'm just gonna fly by that.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll get
So
to mine.
Monk is a class that I have played a lot of. I mained it for the whole last half of Legion. I mained it for almost the whole last half of BFA. I mained it for the first half of Shadowlands. So I've seen it a lot of versions of the Windwalker. And the new talent system really brings back a lot of the abilities that I like. Like in Legion, there was the Crackling Jade Lightning build where you got to 20 stacks and you would just do Crackling Jade Lightning and you would just destroy any target you were targeting. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was a legendary for this expansion, but it just wasn't good. All the other legendaries just beat it out, and it was super sad. And I'm really glad to see it back as a talent choice.
Yeah. Well, speaking of different classes from last episode, I'm also changing my class. I've learned that Shadow Priest just isn't for me. After doing some raids, me, Ty, and Josanna did a raid this week, and Shadow Priest just wasn't for me. The Dark Ascension build just kind of changed it too much. But I am now maining Ty's old main, the Havoc Demon Hunter. We talked about that last episode, so I won't go too much into that. But I did want to talk about Balance Druid. I thought that was one class I was looking at, and I thought the changes were doing really well. Their AOE synergy is getting a lot better, and their Eclipse system is changing, which is really nice.
And they get little fairy dragons.
They do get little fairy dragons, which they did get nerfed in pre-patch, I believe.
They did.
They did, and it was terrible. I do like the ability to control your eclipses a little bit more for that class. I think being able to stack Starfall, even though it doesn't follow you, that's a big
It follows you.
Does it?
It follows you.
I guess I didn't hear that change.
No, it's like a huge 60-yard radius around you, and it does follow you. You just can't cast in it anymore.
I see. But yeah, that's a class I'm pretty excited for in terms of change in terms of the class changes.
Well, now's a good time more than any to really try all the classes out with those changes, see which ones you guys want to do. So if you're changing classes, I mean, I'd get that out of the way before the expansion, just to
Yeah.
make sure you're picking the one you really like.
Yeah, there might be some out there that you guys might not have tried that are actually the class you enjoy the most. I don't know. The talent system should help change it a lot.
Yeah, Rogue was another one that was pretty interesting to me too because I've mained Rogue off and on throughout expansions and I like it. It's not as flashy as some of the other classes, but that was another one I was looking at besides Mage. But I love my Demonology Warlock. It's gonna be hard for me to like leave that one behind and go to another class.
Hmm. What do you think? I know Ty has his opinion on this, but what do you think about the tanks and how they're going to be doing? Do you think it's going to be another tank damage meta?
See, I don't really play tank. Like, I've never really played tanks. Don't know too much about them. I just know there's like an angry bear and then like warrior and stuff like that. But I mean, but then wasn't there a meta for like healing too? Like, it's just kind of a thing where they like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I feel like, I mean, it's cool to do DPS, but you picked a healer for a reason. So your focus shouldn't be doing DPS. I mean, it might make it more fun, I guess, but if you have more fun doing DPS, just play DPS. I feel like what they could do is if you want to, do healer or tank, they can specialize in skills that, can make you really more tanky or better at healing without fitting in like DPS into there so you can really focus on your role and excel on that role and do a better healing than being like a hybrid.
Right. Which I think them adding more damage to tanks and healers is a way for them to encourage more people to play those roles. There are more shortages compared to the DPS role, which cause wait
You're
times.
you're right. There is definitely an imbalance between tanks, healers, and the amount of people that play DPS. But it causes this huge rift between players. And Overwatch was kind of, I know it's a World of Warcraft game, it's a
Yeah.
Blizzard game. Um, what was the meta in Overwatch prior to role queue? Three tanks, three
Yeah,
supports.
the goat meta is what it was called. It
Yeah,
was three tanks, three healers.
that World of Warcraft is getting dangerously close to that.
Oh, that is true.
And if healers and tanks get any more damage than what they already have, you're just gonna see mythics where it's all tanks and just like one healer or two healers,
Hmm.
and they're just going ham and just doing shit.
Right. Which I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of impartial. I think I agree that tanks need to be the tanks and healers need to be the healers. I think that could change based on the encounters. If they made encounters different.
But see, if they did that, it brings up the whole thing where you know looking for a tank for uh, encounter A, only accepting a prot warrior because a prot warrior is the best at it.
Yeah, what I mean, the same thing kind of happens now. I am looking to push this really high key, looking for prot
True,
warrior because they do the most damage. It's
but then it becomes more exclusive per encounter.
yeah, I don't know, but both can be an issue. Like it's just which issue do you want more? I don't know.
None.
None. I don't know how they would change it. So the yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, class balancing like that has been an ongoing work in progress for WoW for a very long time.
Right.
It's hard to just make every class like perfectly fit in what it needs to do without people being like, well, it needs this or it doesn't need this or whatever people are saying at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Some tanks or some damage, or some DPS classes are just better suited to doing different things. And
I think
that's
it
like a
also depends on like what they offer too. Like if a class has a really good buff for the raid or the group, they're gonna want that DPS. If you're just a class that doesn't really offer anything, you're just selfish and do just DPS. That's it. They're gonna want other classes that offer those buffs.
hmm.
Right.
Um. So, is there any other classes that you guys saw that were really interesting to you in terms of the class changes?
Not really. I haven't looked at a lot of the classes. The only one that I mean, there's Ret Paladin that has like the con build now, which makes it relevant, but it also makes me mad knowing that Blizzard had this beautiful animation for Khan planned out in BFA, and they never added it when they did the animation changes, and they never will. And then they used it on the first boss in Dalazar, and I was just sad.
Didn't they promise shamans like a really cool chain lightning too that their pet can literally do?
Yes.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, I'll try to find that con video and share it to our website and probably on the YouTube video around this time. I'll try to add that in there.
Yeah,
So people know what
it
we're
does
talking
look
about.
beautiful.
It's beautiful. I agree. He showed me the other day. I'm like, wow, man, why didn't they add that?
So they haven't added at all. They're not going to for.
No, they're just not going to at all.
Oh, it's there. They could easily put it in there. They're just like, nah.
Oh, absolutely. Paladins had it in. We literally had the animation change in the PTR, and then they just took it out when it went live, and they never added it.
I wonder why. It's not like it's that taxing on the game to add what was already in there for the beta or whatever.
Yeah, I have no idea. And then you know what?
What?
You know the raid Battle for Dalazar?
Yeah.
The first boss, the Paladin on the Alliance side, uses that animation for his con.
Wow. So it wasn't an issue in terms of people's graphics.
Right.
That's interesting.
And I don't think they ever came out and said why they didn't or why they chose not to. It was just something that was just never discussed.
Yeah. Well, I think that covers it for our class changes. Blizzard did release the new short. Do we want to talk about that real quick?
Oh yeah, I've got lots to say on that.
Yeah, it's the Legacy short. That's right?
Yes,
Yeah.
there should be a new one coming out every Tuesday up until Dragonflight, I believe.
Yeah, I'll post a link in the description below, and so you guys know what video we're talking about, in case you haven't seen it. So Ty, what's your thoughts on it?
I thought it was really cool. Of course, Nazdaruma is my favorite aspect. He's just always been chill. He's never done anything wrong, and he's a time boy. Who doesn't like a time boy? He does have a horrible fate awaiting him, if you don't know, actually.
I don't.
Do you know? I know you're kind of new to the whole dragon thing.
Yeah.
Do you know of the infinite dragonflight?
I do not.
So the infinite dragonflight, well, first the bronze dragonflight, are basically charged with protecting time itself. And there's a lot of dungeons that you go back in time and you do stuff. Like almost every single dungeon in Caverns of Time is like that.
Oh yeah, I think I remember some of those dungeons. In terms
So
of
I think it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. And it's I'm gonna be sad. It's gonna suck, but Nazdaruma is gonna become a bad boy soon.
Think so?
Yes,
Oh,
because the
I
bronze.
didn't get that vibe off the short in the beginning.
So the bronze dragonflight actually turns into the infinite dragonflight, which are charged with destroying the timeline. So they're the opposite. And the bronze dragonflight fights the infinite dragonflight, but at the same time, the infinite dragonflight is the bronze dragon. They're the same flight. They just eventually turn into them. And I don't know if you remember the BFA quest line with the Heart of Azeroth, where you had to get like all the aspects to charge up your heart of the heart of Azeroth.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So Nazdaruma wasn't there.
That's right.
Right. He was absent, even though he is still the aspect of the bronze dragonflight. Not with the aspect powers, but he's still the leader of them. He was absent. We haven't heard from him in a while, and this is our first. This is the first mention of him in a very long time. So him coming back into it, even though I know it's obviously it's a dragon expansion and everything like that. Everybody's going home. I'm worried that this is the expansion that it happens, and we've actually already killed him. Back in Oh, geez, what expansion was that? That was End Time, I think. So Cataclysm.
Hmm.
We killed Nazdarumu's future self in Cataclysm.
So,
Gosh, at this rate, we're not gonna have very many aspects left, are we? Like originals.
No, we're not. And it's going to be super sad when we have to fight him. Obviously, we're not going to kill him because he's going to go back in time 11 years and he's going to get, you know, shit on by our
by our own
weaker
selves.
selves, technically. Um,
Wow, I didn't think about it
uh,
that way.
but it's something that's going to be sad.
Hmm.
And the short really made me remember that that's going to happen. And it could definitely be this expansion. But the overall short was really nice. I feel like they left out some key features though.
Hmm. Like what?
Uh, so there's a little scene where they're all like groveling and scared of Galakrond, which Galakrond is the father of all dragons.
Hmm.
He kind of got obsessed with eating dragons, which is cannibalism because they're all dragons, and he did it so much that his flesh started to rot, and his whole body became necrotic and just disgusting. So he grew to a very large size. Like you can see his size in the short,
Yeah.
which is really funny that the short came out Tuesday, and that Sunday we just watched an episode of House of Dragon where the same thing happened,
Oh,
and
really?
it was just too soon. Yeah, I'm not gonna say any spoilers, but
Yeah.
it was a really funny coincidence because it kind of happened the same way.
Oh, that's interesting.
Um, if you've seen both, you'll see the connection.
Hmm.
But one of the things that they didn't mention, and he kind of lied essentially when he was like, we held back the instinct to run out of fear. We held back the instinct to flee. Instead, we fought for the world. That's not exactly how it happened.
Hmm. He was like
I
he was trying to influence that Draktyr.
right.
Hmm.
So or they could be telling it could be a secret between the the aspects. Who knows why they're telling the story like this? But originally, it was the keeper tier, which I don't know who you know who that is or not. Um, but the Titans left keepers
Hmm.
on Azeroth when they left to basically watch over it. Odin is one of those keepers. Odin is actually in charge of all of the keepers on Azeroth. He is the commander of the keeper army.
He's the
He was
keeper of the keepers.
he
Sorry.
is the keeper of the keepers. Exactly. And if you didn't know this, a side bit of knowledge, the Halls of Valor
Hmm.
actually rested on top of Ulduar.
Really?
Yeah, before he moved it to like his own realm. I don't know if it's a realm or if it's somewhere on Azeroth. I think it's a realm, but I don't want to go into that right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, it actually used to rest right above Ulduar, and then he moved it because he wanted to separate himself from the other keepers. But basically, it was the keeper tier that was like, you guys are pretty powerful. You guys are intelligent proto dragons, which consist of Alistraza, Malagos, Neltharion, Nazdarumu, and Ysera. Rest in peace.
Hmm.
Um, they're basically in charge of their brethren and everything like that. And he rallied these five proto drakes and himself. He also fought to go up against Galakrond. And when it happened, in the short, it kind of just is like as soon as they beat Galakrond, they flew down and they got empowered by the Titans. That's not exactly how it happened.
Hmm.
Tyr actually suggests to the other keepers on Azeroth that they empower them to make them the defenders.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I don't. I'm trying to figure out why he would tell the story that way in the short.
I have no idea.
Unless he's just trying to save time and just trying to talk to that Draktyr. Hey, come with us.
Save time. He is the aspect of time.
Yeah. True. I don't
But
know. Unless Blizzard just missed out on that part of the story, and they just forgot.
Nah, they're always up to something.
Yeah.
Or also too, like the original writers of probably the lore might not still be working for Blizzard, so they have to kind of either go by what they have for like records of story, or they might be just like, let's change it our way now that we have new writers. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
They have retcon other things. So who knows?
Right. Overall, I thought the
See,
short was a real good intro to Dragonflight. It's like, oh, here's what the story's going to be about. It's going to be about these dragons and the aspects. I thought it was really good.
see, he was focusing on all the really important stuff of the short. I'm here sitting going like, Ysera and Nas Dormu were like nuzzling each other. I'm like, were they a couple? Like that's the only thing I was concentrating on. I'm like, were they together? Maybe just
That's
normal
funny.
dragon like family love. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close on time. I did want to talk about our favorite and worst moments of Shadowlands before we go. Do you guys have any moments that stand out to you?
My favorite, and I think Josanna might remember me being like, "Oh, oh my God, it's her. It's her. This is who it is." My favorite, best part of Shadowlands was finding out that Ysera was in the pod
Oh yeah.
in Ardenweald. Yes,
Why is that? Why is that your
because Ysera she's just cool.
favorite?
Like it was so hard to kill Ysera while doing the quest line in Legion, and then finding out that hey, Ysera's alive was it was really cool to me. It was by far my best moment.
Yeah.
Mine's gonna be kind of a disappoint on my best moment is it was just collecting the mounts and the spirit forms. But then my least favorite moment, I'm sure a lot of other people felt the same way. It tugged our hearts was when Ursoc, was dead. They pretty much ate his soul to sacrifice
Mm.
it. That broke my heart.
Yeah. My favorite moments are and worst moments are more gameplay related. I'm not a big follower of the lore. I am trying to be, but my one of my favorite moments were participating in the end bosses. I liked Sire Denathrius. I thought that was a really well designed boss, and I thought that was such a good raid. I also liked fighting Sylvanas. I felt like a lot of the story was leading up to fighting Sylvanas. Um, and my least favorite moment, I hate to bring this up, but I participated in a Castle Nathia raid where I overrid my enhancement shaman enchantments with, I believe it was sharpening stones or the shadow core oil, one of those, and
I was there.
he was there, and unfortunately that ruined my DPS so bad, and I felt so embarrassed that I did that.
Don't feel bad. I've done a raid before where at least two bosses I forgot to put poisons on my rogue's daggers, and then there was another time we were fighting Mother, and I accidentally clicked on a warlock portal and pulled the boss, and we wiped. So
Yeah.
everyone's had their moments.
Right. Right. What was your worst moment, Ty? I don't think you shared that.
My worst moment?
Mm.
Uh, I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any. Worst moments.
Mm-hmm.
I have another best moment.
Yeah, if you want to share that, go ahead.
I'll share that real quick. It was the quest line for Korthia, and it's when you're fighting Helia, and Thrall just throws his axe. She's talking, and he's basically just like, "You can shut up now," and he just throws his axe and just impales it into her face. And I find it so funny because he lost the axe, and I don't know if you remember this, but we spent so long finding him a weapon in the Shadowlands, walking around with him, being like, "Oh, this is a sword. That's a human weapon.
Yeah.
This hilt's too heavy. I don't want that."
Yeah. just just complaining about whatever he gets. Just
Yeah, until he finds his axe, and then he just throws it at her, which then impales her in the face, which I thought was hilarious.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I think that should wrap us up for the second episode of the Warcraft Chat Channel podcast. I do want to mention that we have a Discord and Twitter, all that. But most importantly, we have a Twitch. We should be starting that real soon. I don't know if we're doing it next week or the week after, but we should be starting the Twitch channel. So if you want to see us in person, watch us play some WoW, make sure you check out our Twitch channel. The link should be below in the description.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anything else we need to talk about before we leave?
That's it on my part. I mean, I always got stuff to talk about,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We just got to save it for next time, right? All right. Well, if you like the episode, make sure to give us a follow, leave us a rating. It really helps us out. You can find the Warcraft Chat Channel podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Anyway, I've been Kole.
Ty here.
Josanna.
And that's it for us. We'll see you next time.